In the last class, we have seen that the wave function of a particle moving in a spherically symmetric potential can be written as the product of three individual wave functions, a capital theta function, capital phi function, and a radial function. And then we have seen that the product of the angular dependent part of the wave functions can be easily represented by an orthonormal function called the spherical harmonics, and the radial part is represented by a radial wave function. We are making use of those things to study the system of two interacting particles. For two interacting particles moving in a three-dimensional space, the wave equation of the system can be reduced into two one-particle equations, one representing the translational motion of the center of mass and the other the relative motion of the two particles. So let's consider two interacting particles of mass m1 and m2 separated by a distance small r as shown here. The center of mass of the system will be somewhere close to the mass m2 as it is heavier than m1. The radius vector of this center of mass is given by the expression capital R is equal to m1 r1 plus m2 r2 divided by m1 plus m2, and the relative position vector is given by the vector r1 minus r2, where r1 and r2 are the position vectors of the masses m1 and m2 respectively. If we substitute r1 equal to r plus r2 in equation 1, you will get an expression r2 equal to capital R minus m1 r divided by m1 plus m2. Similarly, if we substitute r2 equal to r1 minus r in equation 1, you get an expression for r1 as capital R plus m2r by m1 plus m2. So the momenta of the two particles can be written as, for the first particle it is the product of m1 into its velocity, so this is can be simplified as m1 r dot plus mu r dot, where this mu is given by m1 m2 divided by m1 plus m2, which is known as the reduced mass of the system. Similarly, we can have the momentum for the second particle m2r minus mu r dot square, because there is a sign change between r2 and r1 in these expressions. So even though it is positive here, it's negative in the expression for the second particle. If we assume the potential to be dependent only on the distance between the two particles, that is v of vector r can be written of v of scalar quantity r, the Hamiltonian of the system can be written as p1 square by 2m1 plus p2 square by 2m2 plus v of r. So this part is contributed by the kinetic energy of the first particle, and this is the kinetic energy of the second particle, and this gives the interaction potential between the two particles m1 and m2. Now substituting for p1 and p2 from the equations 5 and 6 we have seen earlier will give us the Hamiltonian expression as this one. That is, after squaring this expression, it can be rearranged into m r dot square by 2 plus mu square r dot square by 2 mu plus v of r. Now in terms of momentum, this can be written as, so this quantity represents the momentum of the center of the mass, and the second one gives the momentum of the relative motion with respect to the center of mass. So the Hamiltonian can be written as in this form, p r square by 2m plus p small r square by 2 mu plus v of r. Now replacing the dynamical variables by the corresponding operators, uh, the momentum by its minus IH cross del. With this we get the Hamiltonian as minus h cross square by 2m del r square minus h cross square by 2 mu del small r square plus v of r. Del of the capital R is the differential operator with respect to the coordinates of the center of the mass, and del small r is the differential operator corresponding to the relative position of the two bodies with respect to the center of mass. So the time dependent Schrodinger equation is h psi equal to E psi, and if you substitute for h, we get an equation for the time dependent Hamiltonian like this one. Here the subscript T, capital T, tells us that it is the total wave function and the total energy of the system. If we proceed with the method of separation of variables, we can write psi capital T as the product of two component wave functions, chi of r and small psi of r. So one is a function of the position of the center of mass, and the other one is a function of the relative position of the two particles with respect to the center of the mass. Now substituting this in equation 9 and separating the functions of different variables results this equation. Now the left hand side of this equation is function of capital R, while the right hand side do not depends capital R. So for the validity of this equation, both sides must be separately equal to a constant, let's say E small t. So we get two more equations equating one side. The left hand side we get an equation minus h cross square by 2 capital M del r square chi of r is equal to E small t into chi of r, and equating the right hand side will give us an expression minus h cross square by 2 mu actually this is a mistake, there is no 1 here, it is minus h cross square by 2 mu del r square psi of r plus v of r into psi of r is equal to E capital T minus E small t into psi of r. Now equation 11 is same as a free particle equation of mass capital M, and it describes the translational motion of the system in space. And equation 12 is same as the Schrodinger equation of a particle of mass mu moving in the field of a potential V of r, and it represents the relative motion of the two particles. The energy of the relative motion is Et minus E small t, which can be taken as simply E, and we can rearrange this equation as this equation 13. Now if we choose the coordinate system in such a way that the center of mass is at rest, then this Et will be 0 and this E is equal to the total energy of the system. Then the Schrodinger equation for the relative motion can be written as like this one. Here also this one is a mistake, you don't need to consider this one. So the well-known examples for two interacting particles in a spherically symmetric potential are the rigid rotator and the hydrogen atoms. So what we essentially did is we started from a two particle case, and after analyzing it we have seen that the Schrodinger equation for those two particles can be separated into two one-dimensional equation One is given for the motion of the center of mass of the system, and the other is given for the relative motion of the system. So the problem gets simplified. Instead of solving a second order differential equation, we just need to solve two first order differential equations. And now we are going to use these results to study the case of a rigid rotator. A rigid rotator consists of two masses m1 and m2 separated by a fixed distance r. It is called a rigid rotator because even during its course of rotation we assume that this length remains constant. Now let's consider the rotation of this system passing through the center of mass and perpendicular to the plane containing the two masses. We have just seen in the previous slide this equation that corresponds to the relative motion of two particles in a potential field. For free rotation, this potential V of r can be taken as 0. In spherical polar coordinates, this equation can be written as minus h cross square by 2 mu 1 pi r square sine theta dou by dou theta sine theta into dou by dou theta plus 1 by r square sine square theta dou square by dou phi square psi equal to E psi. So what I have done is instead of this differential operator, I have just expressed this differential operator in spherical polar coordinates. That's the only difference between these two equations. And we avoided this potential energy term considering that these are free particles and they move without any other kind of interactions. And now you can see that this is exactly the Schrodinger equation in spherical polar coordinates that we discussed in the previous class. So the only difference is that here, as this separation distance r is fixed, the wave function will depend only on the angles theta and phi, and hence we neglected the variation of the wave function with respect to small r. Also, instead of mass m, we consider here the reduced mass of the system mu. This can be rearranged to get this equation. Here mu r square is the moment of inertia of the system about the rotational axis, and hence we can make this substitution 2 mu r square e by h cross square as 2 I e by h cross square, and which can be taken as a constant lambda. Also, let's separate the wave function, which is a function of two angles theta and phi, into two separate functions like this, capital theta and capital phi. We have done the separation of variables procedure many times. So with this, the above equation becomes sin theta by theta d by d theta sin theta d capital theta by d theta plus lambda sin square theta equal to minus 1 by phi d square capital phi by d phi square. This equation suggests that both sides must be separately equal to some same constant, which we have done earlier. So we get two equations from this as d square phi by d phi square equal to minus m square phi, and 1 by sin theta d by d theta sin theta d theta by d theta plus lambda minus m square sin square theta into capital theta equal to 0. So these equations are similar to the angular part equations that we have seen for a spherically symmetric potential. We saw that the product of these two parts of wave functions are spherical harmonics. Hence, the rigid rotator wave functions are spherical harmonics YLM theta phi. Also, the lambda is equal to L into L plus 1, where L have only integer values like 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. Here we defined lambda as 2IE by h cross square, which must be equal to L into L plus 1. Therefore, the expression for energy can be written as EL equal to L into L plus 1 h cross square by 2I. I put this subscript because this energy depends on the quantum number L. So the energy of the rigid rotator depends the quantum number L, which can have values 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. And hence it is quantized with the separation L into L plus 1 h cross square by I between any two consecutive levels. Since there are two L plus 1 possible values for M for a given L value, each state is 2 L plus 1 fold degenerate. That is, there are two L plus 1 states with the same energy values. In spectroscopy, the term h cross square by 2I is usually represented as the rotational constant B. So in terms of rotational constant, if you plot these energy eigenvalues as a spectrum, it looks like this one for different quantum numbers of L. And you can see that those are not equally separated. The separation between the consecutive energy levels are given by L into L plus 1 h cross square by I. And since there are many possible values for M with each of the given L values, each of these energy levels are degenerate states.